Imagine mapping out over 100 original songs, like full lyrics, melodies, and 6 entire concept albums just completely in your head.
Yeah, which is already a massive undertaking.
Right. But now imagine doing all of that without the physical ability to speak a single word of those songs out loud.
It sounds impossible. I mean, it literally sounds like it couldn't be done.
Exactly. If you're listening to this right now, you're probably thinking that's a wild exaggeration. But today, we're taking a deep dive into the lyrical blueprints and, well, the personal notebooks of an artist who did exactly that.
And listener, you are honestly in for just an astonishing, totally expectation-defying journey today.
Astonishing really is the word for it. So let's just jump right in. What kind of sources are we looking at today, and who is this incredible person?
So to really grasp the gravity of the source material today, you have to understand the man behind the music. We are talking about Snoopi Botten. He is a 61-year-old artist, and he was born with cerebral palsy. So he uses a wheelchair to navigate the world, and he actually lost his physical speech to the condition.
Wow. But that didn't stop him from communicating, right?
Not at all. That is a crucial point here. He uses AAC, which stands for Augmentative and Alternative Communication.
Yeah, the man is a true multi-hyphenate. Like, looking at his background, he's a speaker, a comedian, a published poet, a writer, an artist, and now, by weaponizing artificial intelligence, he is a singer.
Which is just a brilliant use of the technology.
It really is. And I want to linger on the mechanics of that for a second, because the tech evolution here is kind of mind-blowing. Back in the early 90s, the sources say he was using something called deck talk.
Right, spelled D-E-C-T-A-L-K, usually pronounced deck talk.
Okay, wait, let me make sure I understand this. How exactly was he using, 1990s text-to-speech tech to actually sing? I mean, are we talking about that flat, robotic voice?
We absolutely are. Think of those really rudimentary monotone synthesizers from 30 years ago.
Oh, man, like the classic robot voice.
Exactly. Deck talk was standard accessibility technology back then. But Snoopi wasn't just using it to speak regular sentences. He actually learned how to manipulate the phonetic code to force that synthesizer to hit specific musical pitches.
You're kidding.
No, he was painstakingly coding melodies, literally syllable by robotic syllable.
That sounds incredibly grueling. I can't even imagine the patience that would take.
It was wildly tedious, and that is exactly why his pivot in 2022 is so vital for this story.
Oh, because that's when modern AI vocal tools became super accessible, right?
Yes. When he switched to AI, the dam basically broke. He was no longer restricted to, painstakingly coding a robot to hold a single note.
Right.
He could feed his lyrical poetry and his melodic frameworks into an AI and get back full, dynamic, emotive human expression.
Which just completely unleashed his output. I mean, the sheer volume of his work after that is staggering. In the year 2025 alone, Snoopi wrote over 100 songs.
Yeah, he was mapping out those 6 entire albums we mentioned earlier.
But there was a roadblock, wasn't there? Like a bottleneck in the process.
Yeah, the bottleneck wasn't his creativity at all. It was distribution. He had this massive library of finished music, but he was stuck on the highly technical side of streaming logistics.
Ah, like formatting the metadata and all that?
Exactly. Sequencing the albums, figuring out the specific formats, and actually uploading them to modern streaming platforms. It's a notoriously frustrating process.
But the notes say he finally cracked that code in January of 2026.
He did.
And the floodgates have officially opened. Because on March 30th, 2026, Snoopi is releasing his 5th concept album. And get this, it's his 5th album of just this year.
It's unbelievable.
It really is. And the title of this album is The Devil'S Playpen. Okay, so let's unpack this for a second. If you're listening right now, you might be thinking, a whole album about the devil. That sounds incredibly bleak. Maybe a little heavy metal or something?
Yeah, it's a completely fair question to ask. Why dedicate a 14-track project to the adversary?
Right.
But his thematic notes are very specific about his intention here. This album isn't about glorifying darkness at all. It's about exposing it.
Okay, I like that distinction.
Snoopi's theological premise is basically that people are taught extensively about God and Jesus, and hopefully they find salvation there. But even if you know Jesus and you know you can call on him, you cannot truly understand spiritual warfare unless you understand the enemy you are actually fighting.
Oh, that makes total sense. Because if you don't know the rules of engagement, you're just fighting blind.
Exactly. Why was the devil created? What was his original role? Why did he turn from God? And why can he never be forgiven?
Right, all the big questions.
And also, why does he attack humanity? And what are the actual limits of his power? Snoopy argues that if you don't know the answers to those questions, you end up giving the devil way more power and fear than he actually warrants.
Oh, wow. So the mission is basically to demystify him.
Yes. The entire mission of this album is to teach you exactly how small and weak the devil really is. And, just to be clear for the listener, we are exploring this theological narrative exactly as Snoopy presents it in his lyrics.
Got it. So to do that, he starts chronologically, like long before the earth was even formed. The album opens with track 1, called From Light to Lies.
And what's fascinating here is that he doesn't introduce Lucifer as some terrifying monster.
No, he introduces him as a brilliant angel,
Right.
clothed in perfect light, with every color shining like a flame.
Exactly. He was full of wisdom, actually leading the music in heaven, but then comes the cosmic fall.
Right, the rebellion.
Snoopy's lyrics state, and I quote, "Pride once turned the brightest light into the darkest kind of night." Lucifer attempts to elevate himself and take the Father's throne, and because of that pride, he is cast down. He mutates from a being of perfect light into a creature of lies.
Which sets up this incredibly jarring tonal shift for the listener. Because after that epic cosmic rebellion, you'd expect the next song to be about a terrifying dragon roaming the earth or something.
Right, you expect heavy, scary imagery.
But the next track is the title track, The Devil's Playpen. And Snoopy reduces this ancient cosmic evil to basically a baby trapped in a playpen.
It's such a brilliant image. The devil's in his playpen, rattling the bars he can't touch. It completely deflates the intimidation factor.
It totally reminds me of that moment in The Wizard of Oz where Toto pulls back the emerald curtain. You expect this giant, scary, booming, floating head, and instead the terrifying illusion is just stripped away. It's just a guy frantically pulling levers.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah, here Snoopy strips away the fear to reveal a powerless figure having a literal toddle tantrum. Because the devil is trapped by God's authority and can't actually reach your soul, what does he do? He throws his toys at you.
And what's fascinating here is how Snoopy explains the mechanics of temptation. Those plastic toys being thrown out of the playpen represent the deadly sins: pride, envy, lust, greed, wrath.
Oh, I see.
By framing them this way, Snoopy completely shifts the power dynamic for the listener. The devil's power is only an illusion. He only has power over your life if you willingly bend down and pick up the toys he's throwing.
Wow, so the threat is totally neutralized unless you actively participate.
Precisely.
There's a lyric that says, he may throw his toys, but I won't break. It's brilliant. But hold on, I am looking at the blueprints here, and I'm genuinely confused by the next jump.
Yeah, it's a wild transition.
We just went from a cosmic rebellion in heaven, the playpen, to track 3, which is called Red Rock. And according to the sources, Red Rock was a legendary 1980s rodeo bull.
He was indeed.
How does a bucking bronco fit into a theological concept album about spiritual warfare?
I know, it seems totally out of left field, right? But Red Rock wasn't just any bull. The stats from the sources are wild.
Yeah, I'm looking at them now. A 309 ride undefeated streak.
Yes. For 309 professional rodeo attempts, no cowboy could stay on his back for the required 8 seconds.
That's insane. And he had that famous fierce rivalry with the legendary rider Lane Frost, right?
Exactly. He was so dominant, he was actually inducted into the Pro Rodeo Hall of Fame.
Okay, that's an incredible piece of sports history, but I still don't see the connection. If the devil is just throwing plastic toys, what does the bull represent?
Snoopy uses Red Rock as a masterclass metaphor for the human tongue.
Oh.
Yeah. He points out that the real explosive danger in our lives isn't always supernatural, it's us. Just as no cowboy could tame Red Rock's unpredictable power, no human can tame the destructive fire of our own words.
That makes so much sense.
The gossip, the cruel remarks, the outbursts that shatter trust. Snoopy's theological point is that you cannot tame it on your own. It requires a total transformation. Only Jesus can tame what's born of flame.
Wow. It speaks what the heart won't let you see. And it really tracks because sin isn't always as loud and explosive as a bucking bull, right?
Right, it can be very quiet.
Which Snoopy explores right away in the next piece of the puzzle, track 4, called White Lies. It's the little things we all do, saying, I'm just 5 minutes away, when you're literally still on the couch.
Or, oh, I didn't see your text.
Exactly.
He calls them excuses dressed in white. And he uses this chilling, poetic imagery. He says, white lies build like snow to cover the truth we don't want to show.
That is beautiful.
It perfectly captures how easily small deceptions accumulate until they kind of freeze over our integrity. But Snoopy reminds the listener of a basic law of nature: snow eventually melts.
Right.
Before the throne of God, in that holy light, Those little excuses and harmless cracks will melt away, revealing the true state of the soul.
It's a massive reality check. You just can't hide behind the little things. And what blows my mind is how he takes these incredibly heavy concepts like the slow erosion of our integrity and suddenly drops them into the middle of everyday Americana.
He essentially becomes a translator for the listener.
Here's where it gets really interesting, actually. He takes the concept of temptation and drops it into track 5, the Devil's Square Dance.
Right, so picture a traditional, high-energy weekend square dance, but the devil is the one on the microphone calling the steps.
I love that visual.
The lyrics say, "Circle left, don't lose your way, he'll whisper lies while the fiddles play." He is actively trying to spin your soul right out of God's arms through the rhythm of distraction.
And he keeps that folksy translation going with track 6, Hooked. You're out on a fishing trip, life jacket on, enjoying the water. But Snoopi warns about a specific dangerous spot to cast your line, the lake of forgetfulness.
Which is such a vivid way to describe spiritual complacency. The devil baits hooks with worldly desires. It looks delicious, it promises comfort, but if you take the bait, you become the devil's catch.
And your ultimate fate is the frying pan.
Exactly.
But I have to say, my absolute favorite metaphor on the entire album is track 7, the final play. It's subtitled The Game of Life. Snoopi turns spiritual warfare into Friday Night Football, but on a cosmic scale.
It is literally the angels versus the demons.
Yeah, Coach Devil is on the sidelines calling trick plays for comfort and fame, trying to disguise sin as a quick victory. But Coach God is sending grace straight to the heart.
The play-by-play commentary in the lyrics is fantastic here. The demons throw a pass of doubt down the human mind, but an angel named Faith literally leaps into the sky for the interception.
Yes, Faith dodges guilt, runs past shame, and scores a touchdown for salvation. It just forces you, the listener, to see spiritual warfare not as some ancient, dusty concept trapped in a cathedral, but as a live, active game happening right now in the middle of your everyday weekend activities.
However, Snoopi doesn't let the listener stay in that comfortable, folksy space for too long.
Yeah, the tone shifts again.
The album suddenly drops into deeply psychological territory with track 8, The Devil Lies.
The metaphors kind of fade away here, and it gets terrifyingly real. It's the voice of the devil whispering in your ear at 2 a.m. saying, "You're not saved, you failed too much."
It's a direct surgical attack on self-worth. The devil tells the listener that they are worthless, weak, and that God's grace couldn't possibly cover their mistakes.
It's that heavy, oppressive guilt that so many people struggle with when they are alone with their thoughts.
Exactly. It's very grounded in human reality.
But right when it feels like the darkness is going to win, Snoopi pulls another massive tonal shift. So we go from this incredibly heavy, oppressive psychological warfare to track 9, Every Trap Backfires.
Yeah, this one is wild.
I'm looking at the notes and it reads like a Looney Tunes script. Why that jarring shift into slapstick comedy?
This is where Snoopi leans hard into his background as a comedian. The imagery is literal slapstick. For example, the devil tries to stop someone from driving to church by flattening their truck tire.
Okay.
He pokes it with his pitchfork, giggling to himself, but the tire pops so loudly it blows the devil right out of sight.
That is hilarious. And then my favorite verse account. The devil tries to tempt a church congregation with a triple chocolate pie, but a hungry bulldog steals it, chases the devil across the churchyard, and bites him right in the breeches.
Leaving tooth marks good and hard.
Yes. And then the devil sneaks into the pulpit to mess with the preacher's notes, trips over a microphone wire, slips on his own banana peel, and rolls into a mud puddle. It is just absurd.
It is totally absurd, but think about the emotional intelligence at play here. By making the devil the butt of the joke, Snoopi is doing something incredibly profound.
Brilliant.
He is completely neutralizing the fear that the devil uses as his primary weapon. If you were laughing at the enemy's incompetence, if you picture him slipping on a banana peel, you aren't terrified of his whispers anymore.
Oh, wow.
Humor, in Snoopi's hands, becomes a highly active, highly effective form of spiritual resistance.
Humor as spiritual resistance. I absolutely love that. And that resilience perfectly sets the stage for the most emotional part of this deep dive. I want to really slow down for track 10, Hey Devil Jesus Took It Back, because this feels like the raw, autobiographical core of the entire project.
It absolutely is. This is where Snoopi drops all the metaphors, all the comedy, and speaks directly from his own lived reality.
I'm just going to quote his lyrics directly from the source notes because they are so powerful. Snoopi writes, "You gave me an infliction, you stole away my speech, you put me in a wheelchair, put everything out of reach.
If we connect this back to his life story, the bigger picture here is that Snoopi is acknowledging the immense, undeniable physical toll of cerebral palsy.
Yeah.
The devil tried to take his joy, his peace, his voice, his very inspiration. The enemy thought a wheelchair could lock away his ability to praise.
But then Snoopi reclaims his narrative. He declares that Jesus broke the chain, and Snoopi delivers what has to be the most triumphant lyric of the year. And with my wheelchair, I roll all over you.
It is the ultimate statement of victory.
It gives me chills. Think about the mechanics of what he's doing here. Snoopi weaponizes the very physical limitations the devil thought would silence him.
Right.
The devil stole his physical speech, so Snoopi uses cutting-edge artificial intelligence to sing his victory loud enough for the whole world to hear. It's the ultimate mic drop.
And he immediately follows that personal triumph by establishing firm theological boundaries in track 11, The Devil Can't.
Okay, laying down the law.
Yes, Snoopi lays out the hard limits of the enemy's power. The devil is not all-knowing. He cannot read our thoughts. He cannot erase our names in heaven.
That's a huge comfort.
Exactly. Just like in the biblical story of Job, the devil can only go exactly as far as God allows him to go. Snoopi reduces him from a roaring lion to just a barking dog with no real bite.
Which naturally raises a massive theological question, I think. If you are listening and following this logic, if the devil is so small, so defeated, and if God's grace is so infinitely powerful, why can't the devil just be forgiven? Like, why is he doomed forever?
Snoopi tackles that exact question head-on in track 12. Too late for the devil, but not us.
And what's his answer?
His lyrical thesis here is fascinating. Think of it like signing a legal contract. Snoopi's argument is that Lucifer didn't sin out of confusion or weakness or trickery. He read the entire contract with a magnifying glass in perfect, holy lighting.
He knew all the terms and conditions.
Right. He stood right by the throne, saw the absolute truth of God, and still consciously, deliberately chose to rebel. He knew exactly what he was doing, so his choice is final.
But humans, we are signing that contract in the dark, without our glasses.
Precisely. Snoopi writes that humans are born in weakness, born in dust. We live in a broken world, constantly blinded by our own flaws and, the toys thrown from the playpen.
Yeah.
Because we do not have that unclouded angelic vision, Snoopi argues there is a loophole of grace for us that simply does not exist for the devil. Because of our blindness, as long as we have breath in our lungs, the door of mercy remains open.
So what does this all mean? Where does this journey ultimately lead us?
It leads to the climax of the album, track 13, where the nails were.
Snoopi takes the listener straight to the cross here. And he makes this devastatingly simple observation, looking at all our pride, our white lies, the anger, the gossip we couldn't tame like that rodeo bull. It should have been our hands and feet where the nails were.
But it wasn't. Jesus took the place of humanity. And Snoopi highlights a stunning poetic observation in these lyrics. He writes that the only man-made things in heaven are the scars on Jesus' hands and feet.
Let that sink in for a second. The only man-made things in all of heaven are the scars.
They are the eternal, physical proof of grace, a permanent record of a love that death could not erase.
Which brings us to the final moments of the album, track 14, What Really Matters. After all the cosmic battles, the square dances, the slapstick laughter, and the overwhelming grace of the cross, Snoopi ends the album by grounding the listener with a deeply personal challenge.
Right, asking the big questions.
When the race is run and the day is done, what did we actually do with our time here? Did we chase the truth, or did we just get lost in endless, meaningless chatter?
He asks, all those words we said, did they mean a thing? Did they lift a soul or just take away? It's a profound challenge to examine how we are spending our lives.
Yeah.
Are we scrolling away our days in a worldly haze, building our own little playpens of pride, or are we turning darkness into bright?
It perfectly synthesizes the entire journey. We watched an angel fall from the light only to throw a toddler tantrum. We navigated the wild rodeos of our own tongues. We learned to laugh at the devil's slip-ups, and we stood reverently at the foot of the cross, looking at the scars of grace.
And he did it all while proving his core mission that the devil is small, weak, and ultimately powerless against the love of God.
Listener, I just want you to marvel at this reality for a second. Snoopi Botten, a 61-year-old man who lost his physical ability to speak to cerebral palsy, has used everything from 1990s deck talk programming to cutting-edge 2022 AI to create an incredibly loud, bold 14-track musical testament.
It's an unbelievable achievement.
And after overcoming all those streaming and formatting hurdles, it is officially dropping for the world to hear on March 30th, 2026.
It is a staggering testament, not just to his faith, but to his unyielding creative spirit. And it leaves us with something really important to mull over.
With that.
Think about the profound irony here. The devil's greatest sin, his ultimate downfall, was using his immense God-given power and voice to try and elevate himself above everything else.
Right.
On the other hand, you have Snoopi Botten, a man who was physically stripped of his mobility and the natural use of his voice, yet he used artificial intelligence to elevate a message of pure grace, exposing the darkness to help others.
That is beautiful.
It really makes you wonder, in a world where we have endless technological tools and platforms at our fingertips, are we using our voices to build our own little playpens of ego? Or are we using them to roll right over the darkness?